So today on the KaK M Show, we'd like to talk about have you forgotten?
Sadism.
We'd like to talk about sadism. Now, what is sadism? We've got a little story for you, haven't we, from the more messages from Michael. Chelsea Quinn Yarborough. Do you want to see a picture of her? There she is. Great. So there's this chap in that's called Henry that's in the class, and they're talking about past life regression, yeah? And in a past life he was a Cypriot and had 3 ships of his own to command. He was what you would describe as a pirate, okay? And he suffered from an emotional condition that might today be thought of as sadism. And I notice in your videos you've been talking about sadism just recently, and you can identify sadists because well, they do horrible nasty things to other people.
They get off causing pain and suffering to others
and loss. So those who seek power, like in the councils, the so-called authorities, the police, the courts, the government, are nearly always sadists. A very infant soul sadist would be Donald Trump.
David Cameron.
David Cameron. I mean, look how embarrassed he was when they found out that he put his penis inside the
head of a pig.
Dead head of a pig. I mean, it's disgusting.
It's just
and the look on his face, you know, he was like, oh, they've found me out. I'm a sadist. Anyway, sadism. He not only seized ships and all the cargo, but the crews and passengers as well. There's some rotten stuff he did here. And you'll be able to, as I read this, you'll be able to go, oh yeah, she's a sadist, and he's a sadist. And oh, they really don't care about us. And it seems to be, and I've always said this,
as Michael Jackson said.
What?
They don't care about you.
Us, them, we. Same thing. Although it was very traditional to ransom crewmen and passengers, this fragment, or human being, did not choose to do so, but sold the fragments he captured into slavery.
Not very nice, is it?
Not very nice at all.
Especially when he could have actually still made as much or even more money by actually selling them back to their families. But he enjoyed causing the pain to them.
I've always said this, yeah, and I'm sure you'll agree, but it's people who walk a negative path, who seem to give the illusion of service to us, to service to a public, which is an illusion, but actually they're serving themselves and their mates. A bit like the council, the government, the police, the courts. They're all, don't believe a word we say, look it up for yourself. He said, yeah, he sold the fragments he captured into slavery, or maimed them and made them into beggars who were compelled to work for him. He also subjugated his captives to very brutal treatment, and often for no reason other than he was bored. He often gave the females he captured as gifts to local men in authority.
Councils, MPs.
Yes, leaders of so-called whatevers, servitude, little boys or little girls. Or both.
Well, the leader and CEO of the city council would go, can I have both?
I don't know him. I've never asked him. But it seems, I don't know. Allegedly.
And if you want to check this out, this is more messages from Michael, page 98.
97, 98.
Yeah.
Yeah, he often gave the females he captured as gifts to local men in authority. That is other sick, twisted, sadist bastards.
Yeah. Right,
who don't give about anybody else, excuse my French, German, Spanish, whatever you want to call it, or to his crew to reward them for their ferocity, so that they'd have to be ferocious before they got a woman. Yeah, in all, he sold more than 400 fragments into slavery and maimed, tortured and killed another 200 or so. That's pretty awful. Can you imagine that you're hearing this in a session that you were like this in a previous life? I mean, the people that are building bombs and stockpiling bombs like Theresa May. Oh, Trident, will you use it?
Yes.
Right? Do you realise that you've actually got to come back to this diarrhea planet, this effluent mess of crap that you're polluting?
But you see, they don't get that because they are young fragments, unlike the more mature.
Infants, yeah. And we're old souls. Do you know you can go onto michaelteachings.com and what types of soul are you? And we've both done the soul test along with a friend of mine. And guess what? I'm a very, very, very old soul, and so is he. And we think we're both sages, and our friend is a scholar. He's collecting knowledge.
I'm more of an onion.
So, anyway, talking about this chap that was a pirate, he had agreements to injure less than 100 of them, and the rest became karmic ribbons. 2 of the deaths he personally orchestrated were burnings of earlier karmic ribbons. This fragment, or human, died in a battle at sea. While he would have to say that this fragment was ruthless for his time, he was not especially remarkable, except in his sexual satisfaction and gratification derived from the physical suffering and raping of children others. Where else do you get that?
He must now work for the council.
More than likely. Or did he learn his karmic ribbon lessons in that lifetime and is now just probably a really nice person? Right, because, as you say, only young or infant souls would take a job where they have no thought or whatsoever for other people, a bit like the royal family and anybody that's majority of people that are in power.
And in fact will cause poverty upon them. This
make them homeless and say that they're doing something. Yeah, put up the taxes on the parking levy. What kind of rotten bastard would do that?
A sadistic one.
It says many fragments who had similar occupations at that time were no better or worse than he was. This is in what you call the 10th century. The fragment who is now Henry was then a second-level young scholar, very ambitious and eager to please the men around him in authority. He was a Cypriot. That doesn't really make any difference what you are. He said his men regarded him with respect and he was counted a brave man. There was somebody that was such a sadist, and he maimed and tortured men and women and sold them.
Just for the sake of it?
Because he was bored. That sounds like the government. His death was sincerely mourned by many, and his crew took a bloody vengeance upon the Genoese ships that had sunk the ship of the fragment, who is now Henry. Incidentally, there are still 2 karmic ribbons remaining from that life. It says this answer is heard in silence. Henry finds he has not been able to write most of the dedicated letters. The others in the room give him the information because he was seriously shocked that he'd been so brutal in a previous life, a previous incarnation. You've heard of reincarnations? Again, reincarnational material, people say, well, you can't prove it. Not unless you're dead. Or you examine the mind through hypnotism, and it can be done.
Well, you just look at the amount of stuff that's come out. You know, these kids that remember being fighter pilots in the war, and they go to where his plane was shot down, and they lay roses, and then he changes from drawing war pictures to drawing flowers and happy pictures because he's laid his past self to rest.
There was I saw this film, there was a small boy in Afghanistan or Iraq, I think it was Iraq or Afghanistan, and he showed the village where his body was buried, and he explained how he died, and then he went to talk to people that knew him, and he was like 4 or 5 years old, and they couldn't believe it, and he was telling them who they were and what they did and everything. So, yeah, as I say, if you want to look into past life regression, Hypnotherapy by Dave Ellman, it's a 30 quid hardback, but it is superb. It's what all the doctors and the dentists learn from.
And hypnotists.
And hypnotists, yeah. I've learnt from it. I've learnt past regression. I've mentioned it before. I was black and Chinese and female in 2 previous lives. I need to look into more. I think that's it for now. I'm just wondering if there's anything else. Did come across a word that we'd not heard before, didn't we? Chagrin. Chagrin. So, sadism. Definition.
Here's the definition of sadism. The tendency to derive pleasure, especially sexual gratification, from inflicting pain, suffering, or humiliation on others.
Remind you of anybody? City council? Government? Priests?
Police?
Courts? Oh, don't you just love a sadist? We would agree that politics are part of the rule of Maya and the physical plane. On higher planes there is, of course, no need for politics, since there is an understanding on all levels and unconditional love. Here endeth the lesson. Yes,
That's just
the hell.
yeah.
But put the hell at the beginning. You can put some funny music on, like, I don't know, or the Death March. Da, 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 da,
That's from Star Wars.
da, 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 da. It's similar, isn't it? You can use that if you like.